Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. Thank you for joining me. This is episode 90 of Hockey on the Spot. Happy Halloween, everyone! Today is Halloween, the last day of October. So we'll have a special Halloween edition of Hockey on the Spot today to cap off the month of October and the first month of the season. So only 4 games last night. We'll have a special This Day in Hockey History moment and a few updates to go over. But one big one in particular that we'll talk about last. Starting with some of yesterday's NHL waivers. The Edmonton Oilers waived 2 players, 2 defensemen, Denis Grebeshkov and Corey Potter, both of whom would be nice pickups for teams looking for depth defensemen. Grebeshkov, I've always known him as a solid two-way blue liner, so why the Oilers haven't really been playing him is really beyond me. And for Corey Potter, he's become a solid depth defenseman in this league. He could be good for a blue line that's really banged up and that really needs some more on it. And for the Minnesota Wild, they have waived forward Stefan Veilleux, a shutdown forward, a depth player. He could be useful for a team that needs depth as far as their forwards are concerned. Bad news for Anaheim Ducks fans. Teemu Selanne will miss 2 weeks after losing teeth and requiring 40 stitches due to an accidental high stick. So the Ducks suffering even more injuries. They will play tonight on Halloween night against the Boston Bruins at the TD Bank North Garden, so they will be without the Finnish Flash for tonight's action. The NHL is in the early stages of writing a proposal that would see clubs being fined for actions by their players. Currently, the plan is after 3 suspensions by a team during a season, the coach, GM, and organization would also get slapped with a cash penalty. The amount would escalate with each further violation. The proposal will continue to get drafted further, and GM and NHL GMs will vote during the March GM meetings. This is a really interesting move, in my opinion, because we can't have teams getting suspensions all over the place. We already saw the Buffalo Sabres suffer 2 suspensions with Patrick Coletta and John Scott. So we'll see how that plays out. The KHL and Finland's Jokerit of the SM Liga have reached a final agreement for Jokerit to join the KHL for the 2014-2015 season. The KHL currently consists of 28 teams from 8 different countries, ranging from Latvia to Far East Russia. Finland will be the first country to join the international league that was not formerly under the Soviet Iron Curtain. Along with the expansion into Finland, the KHL will also add a team in Sochi, Russia after the 2014 Winter Olympics. So the KHL will expand to 30 teams, so they will be just as big as the NHL. So, which means the 2 leagues can truly be at competition now. Winnipeg Jets defenseman Tobias Enstrom has declined the invitation to play for Team Sweden at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, stating he wants to pull all his time and energy into the Jets. That is a bold statement because I guess he realizes that players who play for their countries do suffer a great risk of suffering even greater injury. So very bold statement by Toby Enstrom. I'm sure he'll be rooting for his country really hard, but in some ways that is actually a really smart decision. Buffalo Sabres media is reporting that Buffalo will not re-sign goaltender Ryan Miller, and he will be traded at their first opportunity. However, Miller, who has a limited no-trade clause, wants to go to a contender and will not accept a trade to a Canadian team. So that's interesting, which means Ryan Miller will not be going to a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who kind of need the goaltending at this very moment. The 2014 NCAA Frozen Four is set to take place in Philadelphia, and today the NCAA announced the finalists. For the 2015 to 2018 tournaments, Boston, Columbus, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Brooklyn, St. Paul, Chicago, Tampa Bay, Washington, D.C., and Buffalo. Those will be the locations. In St. Paul, Minnesota, obviously. So, very interesting there. The St. Louis Blues have placed forward Magnus PRV on the uninjured reserve with an upper body injury. Meanwhile, veteran forward Brendan Morrow is day-to-day with an upper body injury, with an upper body injury. So, 2 injuries to the St. Louis Blues. For Brendan Morrow in particular, he had been very solid for the Blues this season. So we'll see how that all plays out. So, Philadelphia Flyer forward Scott Hartnell has basically shaved his entire head off. Very interesting. He'll give those long locks of hair to charity. And now comes the big update of the day from last night. Colorado Avalanche goaltender Semyon Varlamov has reportedly turned himself into the police for domestic violence charges. He was in Denver jail last night on charges of a second-degree kidnapping and third-degree assault of someone he knew. Varlamov cannot bail out of jail because of his Class 4 charge, and he must see a judge before he can leave this Denver jail. The Class 4 felony kidnapping charge, which means someone was taken without their consent, that charge alone carries 2 to 6 years in prison. That is a humongous loss for the Colorado Avalanche. He has been arguably their best player this season. He has been just a tremendous goaltender this year, and that could ruin the Avalanche's season. It's stuff like that that really ruins a team. So, this is bad news for the Avalanche and bad news for their fans. A lot of people who looked up to Semyon Varlamov. I personally am in shock about all this. He will appear in court today at exactly 10 a.m. He turned himself into the police at around 6 p.m. and is innocent until proven guilty. Tonight it's just rumors. Today more information will be revealed. His father had this to say. There will be a hearing, and only afterwards will we be able to give some kind of comment. I can only say one thing with complete responsibility. No crime has been committed whatsoever. The media have simply blown the situation out of proportion. There was no kidnapping, even less any kind of acts of violence. I can't say any more because the lawyer won't be too happy. Is there any point in worrying about it? No, none at all. If the Russian coaches call him up, all will be okay. Meanwhile, Igor Ananskik, a senior Russian parliamentarian, believes it's all a plot to prevent Russia from winning the gold medal in hockey at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. I'm confident of Semyon's innocence. I think it is a sports and political move, as Varlamov is a candidate for the Russian national team. The main goal is to suspend him from training and games so that he loses practice and misses the Olympics. As far as we know, his girlfriend complained to the police and is on the basis of her complaints to arrest a man. I think this is totally wrong and incorrect. That is what he had to say. That's what those two had to say. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens to Semyon Varlamov today. This will not be a good Halloween for him, obviously. And we'll get a further update on his status in tomorrow's episode of Hockey on the Spot. And until then, that's all the updates for today. So now let's talk about the games. Only 4 games last night, so let's get right into it. Starting with the big game of last night's action, the Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins in Pittsburgh, the rematch from last year's Eastern Conference Finals. Jarome Iginla returning to Pittsburgh, remembering that Jarome Iginla last year at the trade deadline declined a trade to Boston and decided to go to Pittsburgh. Boston swept them fairly easily, and then Iginla went on to sign a one-year deal with the Bruins this offseason. Now Iginla goes up against his most recent former team. This will not be the emotional night for him. The emotional night for him is when he plays his other former team, the Calgary Flames. That will be a great night for sure, especially when the Bruins visit Calgary. But the Pittsburgh Penguins would end up getting their revenge by winning this game by a final score of 3-2. Pittsburgh Penguins goals being scored by Chris Kunitz on the power play, assisted by Chris Letang and Sidney Crosby. Chris Letang, his first assist of the year. And then after the Bruins tied it at 1 and looked like in good shape, Brandon Sutter would score his first of the season, assisted by Pascal Dupuis and Brooks Orpik. And then Jussi Jokinen would get the eventual game-winning goal unassisted. So, congratulations to Jussi Jokinen on that respect. Marc-Andre Fleury was very good in goal. 21 saves on 23 shots and .913 save percentage. So, congratulations to him. Robert Bortuzzo and Tanner Glass both respectively had 6 hits in the game to lead the Penguins. So great nights for both of them. Now for the Boston Bruins, their goals coming from Patrice Bergeron, assisted by Dennis Seidenberg and Brad Marchand. And then very late in the game, with very little time left, Jerome Iginla would get his third of the year against his former mates, assisted by Milan Lucic and Patrice Bergeron. Jerome Iginla now starting to come into his own, got off to a rough start this season, as he always does. This has been a constant theme for him to get off to rough starts, but then a month into the season, he picks his game up and becomes one of the best players on the ice. So he was really happy about that. Iginla followed that up with 5 hits in the game. That did not lead the Boston Bruins, though. That was Milan Lucic, who assisted on Iginla's goal along with Patrice Bergeron. Lucic had 7 hits to lead the game in that respect. Patrice Bergeron led the game with 5 shots on goal. He had a goal and an assist in the game, the only multi-point performer for either team. Tuukka Rask got the start, and he was good despite the loss. 28 saves on 31 shots, 903 save percentage. Bruins, of course, still without Louis Eriksson. Hopefully he can get back soon, as can hopefully Rob Scuderi and Chuck Kobasu. Penguins missing those 2 players. So congratulations, though, to the Pittsburgh Penguins on a big win. Next, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Calgary Flames. In Calgary, the Maple Leafs continue to be red hot. They continue to get outshot, but find ways to win. 4-2, the final score. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, their goals being scored by Joffrey Lupul, assisted by Jake Gardiner and Nazem Kadri. Then James Van Riemsdyk would get himself a short-handed goal, his 7th of the year, assisted by Jay McClement, his first assist and point of the year. Then Mason Raymond would score what would be the game-winning goal, assisted by David Clarkson. For David Clarkson, that would be his first point of the season, his first assist of the year, his first assist and point in a Toronto Maple Leafs sweater. He assists on the game-winning goal. And then, late in the game, Paul Ranger scores his first goal in a Toronto Maple Leafs sweater, unassisted via a short-handed empty net goal. The Flames were on a power play when Ranger scored this empty net goal. Carter Ashton would lead the game with 7 penalty minutes. He could quite possibly be getting a hearing from Brendan Shanahan, as he took a nasty boarding penalty on defenseman Derek Smith, so he could quite possibly see some time. He led the Leafs with 7 penalty minutes. Fraser McLaren had 5. So we'll see what happens with Carter Ashton. Jonathan Bernier got the start in net and was absolutely spectacular. 41 saves on 43 shots and .953 save percentage. That starting job is still up for grabs. And honestly, with the way things are playing out, we may not even see a definitive starter until the playoffs, if the Leafs do make it, of course. They're trying to, for now it looks like that they're trying to make it Jonathan Bernier, but we'll see how that plays out as the year goes on. For the Calgary Flames, their goals being scored by Matt Stajan, his first goal of the season. Assisted by Curtis Glencross and TJ Brody. And then David Jones would get up on the board, assisted by Chris Russell and Dennis Wideman. Again, the Leafs, the Flames without Lee Stempniak, as well as their captain, Mark Giordano. A couple big losses for them. Chris Russell, though, continues a small point streak. He's been pretty good as of late. No multi-point performers. The Flames, though, a shooting gallery. TJ Brody, 5 shots on goal. Curtis Glencross, 5 shots on goal. Sean Monahan and David Jones, both 6 shots on goal. Curtis Butler, 4 shots on goal. So, a lot of shooters that night. Kari Ramo gets the starting goal for the Flames. Not a great night for him. Just 18 saves on 21 shots and .857 save percentage. It looks like Kari Ramo has pretty much reclaimed the starting job from Joey McDonald. After McDonald had gone on that hot streak, he has started to go cold a little bit. So now Ramo is in net. But Shane O'Brien led the game with 17 minutes in penalties. He got a 10-minute misconduct as a 5-minute fighting major and a 2-minute instigating minor. Brian McGrattan, 5 minutes as well. But Shane O'Brien, we'll see what happens to him as the year goes on. Leafs, obviously, a big thing for them now, trying to trade defenseman John Michael Lyles. They haven't called up for their road trip in case something goes wrong, but we'll see what happens. He could be a good player for a team that needs an offensive blue liner and a power play quarterback. So congratulations to the Toronto Maple Leafs on another huge victory. Next, we have the Detroit Red Wings and the Vancouver Canucks in Vancouver. The Red Wings coming up with a big win by a final score of 2-1. Vancouver held a 1-0 lead in the game, but after that it was all Wings. They got both their goals coming in the second period. The first goal being scored by Daniel Alfredsson, his third of the year, assisted by Brendan Smith, his first assist of the season, and Kyle Quincy. And for Brendan Smith, that would also be his first point of the season. He is, of course, a shutdown defenseman. And then Thomas Tatar would get his first goal of the season, assisted by Nicholas Kronwall and Danny DeKeyser. That is his first point of the year as well. That would be the game-winning goal. He's a player that they have a lot of high hopes for. Todd Bertuzzi would lead the Wings with 5 shots on goal. Jimmy Howard was good. 19 saves on 20 shots and .950 save percentage. So congratulations to him on a huge win. And for the Vancouver Canucks, their only goal of the game being scored by Daniel Sedin, his 6th of the year, assisted by Henrik Sedin and Ryan Stanton. Alexander Burrows leading the game and the Canucks with 6 shots. The Canucks and the game with 6 shots on goal. He pretty much did the majority of pretty much a quarter of the shooting for the almost a quarter of the shooting for the Vancouver Canucks last night. He was probably their best player on the ice. Not a great night for them. Alexander Edler, 6 block shots in the game that led both teams and all players. Roberto Luongo obviously getting the start, 25 saves on 27 shots and .926 save percentage. So not a bad performance. He was the second star of the game, just could not get the win. So congratulations to the Detroit Red Wings. And last but certainly not least, we have the San Jose Sharks and the Los Angeles Kings in LA. A big game for the LA Kings facing off against the best team in the National Hockey League. They defeat the best team in the National Hockey League by a final score of 4-3 in overtime. The Sharks still managed to get a point, but the Kings can now relish in the fact that they've beaten not only the best team in the league, but arguably their arch rivals. For the LA Kings, they trailed 3 times in the game, won 3-0, 2-1, and 3-2. The Kings defied all the odds and came back to win. It was their power play that powered them to victory in the end. For the LA Kings, their goals being scored by Drew Doughty, assisted by Justin Williams. Then Jarrett Stoll would get his second of the year, assisted by Slava Voinov and Dustin Brown. Then in the third period, Justin Williams would score a power play goal, assisted by Anze Kopitar and Mike Richards. And then in overtime, Anze Kopitar gets his second of the year to cap off the game on the power play, assisted by Drew Doughty and Mike Richards. Quite a few guys on this Kings roster that had multi-point nights. Drew Doughty, a goal and an assist. Mike Richards, 2 assists. Anze Kopitar, a goal and an assist. Justin Williams, a goal and an assist. So 4 multi-point performers. Kyle Clifford led the game with 7 penalty minutes. Dustin Brown and Slava Voinov both led the game with 6 hits. So they were both tremendous. Anze Kopitar led the Kings with 4 shots on goal. That also led the entire game. So not a lot of shooting going on in the game. Jonathan Quick, not his best night, quite honestly. Just 17 saves on 20 shots, an .850 save percentage, but somehow he still gets the win. For the San Jose Sharks, their goals being scored by Mark-Edward Vlasic, assisted by Logan Couture and Tyler Kennedy. Then Joe Pavelski would get his 5th of the year, assisted by Tommy Wingles. And then Logan Couture would score a power play goal, assisted by Patrick Marleau and Jason Demers. Logan Couture, a goal and an assist in the game, the only multi-point performer for the San Jose Sharks. No real standout stats. Mike Brown, 5 minutes in penalties, but that's about it. Antti Niemi, not his best night either. Just 19 saves on 23 shots, an .826 save percentage. So not a big shooting night, and for the few shots that did get on goal, not a good night for goaltending. Brent Burns was not playing in the game. I believe he is out with a minor injury. So the Sharks were a little short-handed on that note, missing one of their best forwards. So congratulations to the Los Angeles Kings on a huge victory. And now, last but not least, here we go, folks. For Halloween, your Halloween moment for this day in hockey history, and it's a special one, October 31st. In 1987 of October 31st, Marcel Dionne, who played for the New York Rangers at the time, scored his 700th career goal in the NHL and became the 3rd player in NHL history to reach 700 goals. He was introduced into the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame in 1992. In his career, he scored 731 goals and added 1,040 assists in the regular season and 21 goals and 24 assists in the playoffs. With 731 goals, Marcel Dionne is 4th in goals after Wayne Gretzky, who has 894, Gordie Howe, who has 801, and the Golden Brett himself, Brett Hull, who has 741. So that is your moment, your final this day in hockey history moment for the month of October. And that'll do it for episode 90 of Hockey on the Spot. Thank you guys for joining me. This has been Hockey on the Spot with Brandon Barenfeld. I'm Brandon Barenfeld. I will see you guys tomorrow, or in other words, I'll see you guys again in November. Thank you, and have a great day, and happy Halloween, everybody.